Hi everybody, I'm BEEBSGIFT. Welcome back to another video. We have a wedding to discuss today. This special fashion edition is dedicated to Hugh Grosvenor and Olivia Henson's wedding recently, who are now the Duke and Duchess of Westminster. And her dress has left the public completely divided, as per usual with famous or celebrity or royal adjacent or high society brides. I completely understand why this time though. At some angles like this one, it's simply divine. It's so beautiful. She looks so pretty. But at other angles, the dress looks borderline frumpy. So let's take a closer look. The hairstyle is great. It's elegant, it's pretty, complements the tiara really well, and thank goodness it was a super secure, sleek updo, because if it wasn't, the wind would have made it a completely atrocious mess. So that was a smart idea to have a nice, sleek, sprayed down updo. And I like just how pretty it looks. It looks classy, it looks delicate, it looks nice. It goes great with the tiara. Just everything about the hairstyle I thought was absolutely perfect. This is one of the angles that shows just how gorgeous this look was, generally speaking. The veil and the train have perfect proportion together. And the veil is far longer than the train of the dress. It can look really disjointed, similar to what we saw with the Meg. It was just so unbalanced. It looked like the veil belonged to a completely different dress. It just didn't work. But this is balanced. It's so beautiful the way the lace essentially borders this 6-foot train. The dress has a very romantic vibe overall, with the scalloped edge and the lace details. It's an ivory gown of silk crepe satin by British designer Emma Victoria Payne, who also designed the veil. Now, the veil, there was some confusion online. The veil is a new item, but it was inspired by, and all of the lace details were inspired by her great-grandmother's veil. So it's a very sentimental look. It's very sentimental lace and everything like that, but the veil itself is new. She also paired it with the Fabergé myrtle leaf tiara, which the Grosvenor brides have been wearing for their wedding days since 1906. And this is one of the angles, in contrast, where I don't think it translated quite as well. The dress looks like it's got a bit too much room, like in the chest area, maybe even across the stomach area just a tad, like it's not fitting her well. But at other angles, it looks fine. So I do think that it fit her well, that they did a good job of tailoring it perfectly. It's just the dress style itself doesn't provide for a very snug or like good secure fit across the torso and front because of that open back. The waistband is at a really great spot. It complements her figure perfectly. Sleeves are what I think is really kind of throwing people off in some ways, because paired up with the scalloped lace neckline, the slight puff on the shoulder, while we needed that puff to sort of flow nicely with the neckline, maybe it wasn't the best choice, as it kind of lent itself to that frumpy look in some shots, having the puff here. I think that might be what some people were referring to. The lace neckline itself adds some softness. It's dainty, it's delicate, it features lace in a unique way. I think it was a good choice. And I do believe a huge factor in her choosing this specific dress was likely the open back. It was probably an element that she really just fell in love with when she was trying on dresses, and accepted that it was going to come with a slightly looser, borderline frumpy fit in some angles across the front as a sort of compromise, if you will, because it's very difficult to achieve a more structured, well-fitted front if you have this big of a cutout in the back, because the fabric just has to sort of hang across the front. It can't have any sort of structure sort of forming it to your figure. In fact, it's really miraculous that it fits this well when you take that into consideration. And sometimes there is just a feature that a bride is, or a client is just enamored with, and they just really fall in love with it, and it's something that it's like that one thing is what becomes their priority, and they're willing to make sacrifices in other elements in order to have that. And in this case, I think it was the open back probably. It is a really beautiful, romantic, and striking, like in pictures where you can see the back. It's striking, it's beautiful. And the wind blowing actually made these pictures look really stunning. It was actually all meant to be. I am excited to be partnering with Wild for today's video. They have sent me over their deodorants, which I've been trying for the last few weeks, and I'm really impressed. So instead of having single-use plastics that you throw away each time you run out, instead with Wild, you get one of these really nice aluminum reusable cases, and each time you're low, you order a refill, which comes in compostable packaging. You just pop it in and you're good to go. The scents are absolutely divine. My favorites right now are cherry blossom and coconut vanilla, but they also have neutral scents like thunderstorm, delicious, rainforest oasis. Absolutely lovely. I really appreciate that Wild's products are all vegan and cruelty-free. They're also free of parabens, aluminum salts, and sulfates. So if you're ready to give Wild a try, click the link in the description box below and you can use code BEEBSGIFT for 20% off. That's BEEBSGIFT for 20% off your order at Wild. While the sleeve length isn't necessarily my favorite element to this dress, it has always been a rather popular option for brides for decades. And by having the lace cuffs, it sort of creates this softer transition similar to the scalloped lace edge, softening the transition of the neckline here, which actually pairs really nicely with the fabric of the dress. I think that the direction this dress went really celebrates traditional bridal features like lace, dainty details, and romance, which is really lovely. You can really tell that she loved this dress, that she felt confident in it because she looks so beautiful in it, and that's the most important thing, that she felt good and beautiful in it because it did enhance and complement her. She doesn't look uncomfortable, she doesn't look stiff or anything like that. The shoes really set some of you off, but I think it's a really cute touch. It's the something blue and it's out front and center. It kind of pulls you into the fact that she wanted this dress and her overall wedding look to really nod to tradition. The block heel was likely a lot more comfortable than, say, a stiletto or spike heel. I think that's a good choice. I think they're fun. They show a little bit of personality. I like it. And I also think really giving that element helps anybody viewing the look recognize that she was going for a modern take on some of those traditional bridal elements. The groom, Prince William, they looked very dapper, but who had the internet talking even more than them was Princess Eugenie. Her dress, or rather the execution of it, was heavily criticized. This is an olive dress with a pleated asymmetrical skirt from Joseph. And as you can see in comparison to a picture of it on a model, the fit on Eugenie just isn't quite right. It looks like it's a tad too big around the armpits and in the arms and the length. The sleeves are too long, there's some room throughout the sleeve, and then it's just too big right around here. It's also a little longer in the skirt on Eugenie than it is on the model, which would get a pass if it weren't so obvious that it's a little big in the other areas. So it kind of hindered the finish of the dress, having it be just a tad too big. Maybe she could have had it tailored a little bit or just gone down a size. It does look like it's made of a fabric that would have had enough give for her to just downsize, but for whatever reason she didn't, and we ended up with a slightly messy look here and there. She definitely would have benefited from a slip or a smoothing tank like a onesie or a romper underneath there, because you can see the line where the bra cups are, and that looks really unpolished as well. Now, some of you thought that there were full-blown no bra happening. No, there definitely is a bra. She's probably wearing a 2 or 3 piece cup construction, meaning that there is a seam going across this part of the bra, or she's wearing a demi of some sort that kind of creates this sort of plunge element, but you shouldn't be able to see the undergarment outline. And so with a smoother finish, she would have had a more polished presentation. If it weren't for those 2 issues, it would have been a great success. I quite like the color. I think that's good. The shoes are also a tad too big, but they're nowhere near as bad as Meghan's attempt in those shoes. Literally just the fit and the finish, some easy fixes would have elevated her look a lot. Now, a lot of commenters thought that the bride's dress reminded them of Meghan Markle's because of the boat neckline, the 3/4 sleeve, the less voluminous skirt, but there are so many key differences that set it apart. And mind you, Princess Angela of Liechtenstein and a bunch of other royal and royal adjacent or society ladies have opted for similar silhouettes for decades. This is nothing new. This is no such trend or anything like that set by the Meg. It's been a trend set by like somebody in the early 1900s. In fact, I have a video of many of those similar silhouette sort of dresses that I will link for you here and in the description box. So I would never directly credit them to Meghan or any recent royal or well-known brides simply based on those elements alone, because it's a very commonly chosen wedding dress silhouette. But let's take a look at what set Olivia's dress apart from Meghan's. Firstly, color. The Meg chose the whitest, brightest neon white she could possibly find, which also read very matte, while Olivia's is ivory and it has a definite sheen to it. The luminosity really lends the dress much more dimension and warmth and movement. It's softer to the eye, and it's also noticeable at the hemline, where Meghan's looks stiff, Olivia's has flow to it. Meghan also had the absolute widest boat neck possible. In fact, it was almost an off-the-shoulder style because it literally met the corners of her shoulders. While the traditional bateau necklines are more like Olivia's here. They're a little bit further in. They don't tend to look like they're slipping off the shoulder the way Meg's does, but are rather just a simply wider set high neckline like Olivia's. So Olivia had a traditional bateau neckline. Meg's was exaggerated. Olivia's is also bordered with lace at the neckline and scalloped as well. And she also has lace cuff at the sleeve, unlike Meghan's, which looks like it's just a folded over napkin. My number one suggestion to improve the Meg's wedding dress has always been some degree of softness across that neckline. It was just so straight, so harsh, so thick looking that it came across stiff and severe. While Olivia's has that scallop, it has the lace, it gives a more romantic feel. It's softer. It creates a more gentle transition as well. And it just looks pretty by her face. It accentuates her more dainty features, and it smooths the sleeve transition as well. It's not abrupt the way the Meg's was. Obviously, the train and veil are a much better match here for Olivia. They go nicely together. The proportions are right. The Meg looked like she was dragging a veil that belonged to a completely different dress. Meghan's obviously didn't have an open back, and that wouldn't have been advisable in her situation anyway. Olivia has that slight puff to the shoulder, and the position of the sleeve is different on account of the bateau neckline being at a more traditional width. Because Meghan's neckline was so very wide, it made the sleeves look very awkward, with a strange and ill-fitting appearance taking shape right around the armpit area, the start of the sleeve. And that was completely avoided in Olivia's dress due to those differences in construction and design. She was able to have a normal sleeve construction regardless of the puff shoulder because the neckline wasn't extreme. They both had similar trains and skirts to their dresses. Olivia's seems to be a slightly better fit, but that also could be down to the fabric, which was more forgiving. Olivia's has a waistband that Meghan's does not, which really does help more simple silhouettes to not look too boxy, and in her case really does help to define her figure very nicely. The Meg could have benefited from a waistband, but it would have been even better for her to just simply have more volume and flow to the skirt to balance that widened shoulder line. It would have created a much more balanced look overall, and the silhouette would have been nicer, and that bit of flow, if she had more fabric in her skirt, would have just helped things look less severe and stiff and straight. Olivia's dress was very unique and beautiful. It was lovely and feminine. It had this romantic feel that also felt very modern while nodding to tradition. It was really sweet, and whether or not the dress itself or the overall look was your taste or not, I think that she pulled off a really successful bridal look here. And overall, it looks polished, graceful, and pretty. It clearly enhanced her look. Her styling was perfect, her makeup and everything came together really nicely. There was nothing in competition with the other elements. And the bouquet was also this sort of really natural and pretty vibe that I think really complemented the overall look and echoed some of the elements of the lace quite nicely. But please leave your thoughts and comments in the description box below. I look forward to reading them. And if you would like more wedding dress or bridal content or content on the royal weddings, then take a look in the description box. I will be sure to link a playlist to all of our bridal and wedding themed videos there. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I will see you next time. Bye!